This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwall podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 383 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about, preview Marco Rose's first competitive game as Borussia Dortmund manager against Wehen Wiesbaden in the German Cup. For all that and more, joins me Matthias Zug for, as I've been pointed out, a 10th season of Yellowwallpod. How about that?
It's pretty crazy. It dawned on me this morning driving to the mechanic where I was like, it's not been 10 years, but I'm like, wait a minute. But this is the start of season 10 of the Yellow Wall. And yeah, it's
you know
come
what's
a long
worrying,
way.
Matthias?
What?
You were already the old guy on the first year of the Yellow Wall.
Yeah. No, I know. When I started the Yellow Wall, I was older than you are now. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think this.
So anyway, this was a great
old,
episode. This is a great episode. Thank you so much for everybody for listening. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to end it now. No. How are you, Stefan?
I'm rolling the outro. I'm done. No, I'm good. Thank you. It's a really nice day in Philadelphia, and as I just said to you before we start recording, my wife and I are driving to Cape Cod for the weekend, so I will have to watch the German Cup in our little vacation home up there in Massachusetts. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Different beach than the Jersey Shore, which we also frequent because that's the closest to us here. Anyway, let's talk about Borussia Dortmund and all things going on there or not going on there, Matthias, because obviously Wehen Wiesbaden is a third-tier team. They have been, alongside Freiburg 2, the most boring team in the early starts of the Dritte Liga, as both teams have neither conceded nor scored, and both teams have 2 points to their name due to two scoreless draws. So obviously, as is Yellowwallpod tradition, we both don't know much about the opponent because they're in the third division and I don't watch it. And you, I think, where Preußen Münster? Are they even in the third division right now? If they were, you'd probably watch, but they aren't. So
no, Regionalliga West. Used to watch a lot of Dritte Liga when they were in there. When I look at the lineup for Wehen Wiesbaden, there's really nobody there that even stands out. I mean, there's Dominik Prokop, an Austrian who comes from the Austria Wien Academy, whose brother is actually significantly better than him. Other than that, 2 scoreless draws so far for them to start off with, one against SC Freiburg, zweite Mannschaft. Of course, Borussia Dortmund's second team is also in the Dritte Liga. And even though that's kind of cool, I have to say, I really do hate when Bundesliga second teams are in the Dritte Liga because they don't really need it, let's be honest. And other clubs, thinking of Preußen Münster as an example.
Rot-Weiß Essen.
Rot-Weiß Essen, or, I mean, there are a ton you could name there where it's like they need to be in the Dritte Liga. They need to have that advancement, and their places are obviously being taken up by, youth practice teams. I mean, let's be honest. So anyway, be that as it may, very, very prepared. Don't know anything about Wehen Wiesbaden for this season to really give anybody any detailed analysis. It's like any of these first round DFB Pokal matches for any of the big clubs is they just have to go out, perform, get the result, and move on, not overstress themselves. It's summer, so it's still hot. It's their first real competitive match against usually very, very motivated opponents because they're going to be playing against Borussia Dortmund. Why wouldn't you be motivated? And obviously that can sometimes lead to challenges that are rather questionable at times. So just get out of it healthy, win 2-3-0 and move on. Obviously that every year the DFB Pokal in the first round has some surprises in it, but thankfully the really big clubs have kind of dodged those bullets now for a few years. So this is kind of one of those. It'll be nice to get going. And so far, Dortmund, I don't watch friendlies. I think I've said that now for 10 seasons. But looking at the results and some of the comments I've heard overall, Dortmund's preseason and warm-ups have gone rather smoothly. So I don't really expect too much drama this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 3-0 against Bologna looked quite good. I would say I watched most of that game, and I thought Dortmund looked very comfortable on the field. The automatisms and whatnot already doing pretty well. Sometimes it can look a little more all over the place, especially in such a patchwork preseason, which is really chaotic. I think Michael Zorc said as much that it's the position of Marco Rose right now is not really enviable, and I picked up one tiny quote from Rüdiger Rehm, who is the coach of SV Wiesbaden and SV Wehen Wiesbaden to be precise. And he said that this game is probably the best chance to beat Dortmund. And I think he's probably right, because so many players are coming just back from the international or the summer break with the international competition of the Euros. Akanji came back late, Hazard, Witzel, etc. And Marco Rose at the news conference today said as much, that he will have to throw them in at the deep end, and a lot of players won't be able to play for the full 90 minutes. And obviously we have one healthy center back going into the season. Rafael Guerreiro is having calf issues. Emre Can, I think, is also out. Mats Hummels still with the patella tendon, with the ligament in his knee, is struggling, and nobody knows how long exactly he will be out for. Rose said cautiously optimistically today that it's improving, but obviously he did not give a timeline. So those are sort of the settings going into this, that we have to throw in players that hardly even played. I mean, talk about Bellingham and Delaney, for example. They just returned to Dortmund after the training camp in Bad Ragaz. So Matthias, obviously we know Gregor Kobel will start in goal, and I assume Manuel Akanji will also play. I assume that Nico Schulz will play, and of course then it's probably going to be Passlack on the right due to the COVID outbreak in Dortmund that has affected Thomas Meunier and Julian Brandt. So then it's either Meloni or Papadopoulos as the other center back. Since you haven't really seen much of the preseason, if anything, it's probably hard pressed to ask you who you would prefer. And I'll be honest, I don't know either really. I'm not really leaning one way or another, but this is probably a defense that we could also expect against Frankfurt on the Bundesliga opener. So, Matthias, what are you looking for from this cup game? Obviously, you have Donyell Malen, who I haven't heard your opinion on yet since he was signed, so maybe we'll start there.
Well, Malen, obviously the man that everybody linked with Dortmund, that Dortmund really wanted, and they got the person they wanted. He is not a Jadon Sancho replacement. I'm looking forward to that constantly being brought up for the first few months. Oh, is he the Sancho? No, he's not a Sancho type player, but he's a very good player. I think I can't say he improves Dortmund, because losing Sancho, it's a hard one. I'd say it's kind of a clean clean slate to start with there. It'll be interesting to see him perform. I think this is a good match for him to kind of play in. I would look forward to and hope to see him right away. Might as well. And maybe then you take him off in the second half, kind of a deal. Because it'd be better to throw him in against Wiesbaden versus against the other Hessian club that Dortmund will be facing the week following with Eintracht Frankfurt, because that's obviously going to be, well, that's going to be interesting anyway, because they have a new coach as well, like pretty much everybody in the Bundesliga this season, it seems. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Donyell Malen. I'd like to see how he clicks with Holland. You know, I mean, there are a few question marks there in the team, like you said, as far as injuries or coming back to the side and kind of getting back into the groove. I don't know if Marius Wolf is going to get a run out in this type of match.
I think he's injured too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few little niggling injuries, but maybe we'll see Axel Witsel a little bit here and there. So it's a little bit open, but I do believe, you know, guys like Dahoud and so on, it'll be a overall solid performance. That back line, I'm not going to say it worries me because I think they could perform well enough against Wiesbaden, but it'll be interesting to watch because Frankfurt are going to be significantly more difficult for them to face, even though I don't quite know what we're going to expect from Frankfurt at this point. So, yeah, and as far as who to put next to Akanji in there, I don't know. I mean, I heard that Papadopoulos did really well. Cool. I remember, was it 2 years ago, everyone was blown away by how Tobias Raschel played, and that, you know, he's had hundreds of matches since then, of course. So I don't care. We'll just have to wait and see what happens in this match, and that'll probably give us an indication of what Rose is going to be looking for against Eintracht Frankfurt, which is obviously the match I'm kind of looking ahead to. Not because Dortmund won the DFB Pokal, so I don't care. I always care about every single competition Dortmund's in, but it's just a little bit odd right now.
Yeah, just to add to that, Marius Wolf has a ligament tear. He, I think, picked that up against Athletic Bilbao. And it's not looking good. He might be out for longer, but not as long as Bino Gittens, who obviously is a youngster who also joined Dortmund from the Manchester City Academy. I think it was last winter, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's only 16 years old, and he completely tore his ligament in his ankle. I think in Wolf's case, it's just partly torn, so he'll be out for longer. That's obviously very unfortunate. But yeah, so I don't expect to see Wolf in this game for better or worse. I think Paslak has been doing a fine job, to be honest. And I'll be honest, if it's not the set piece goal, then I'm not really worried about Dortmund's defense. I thought they looked pretty well organized, regardless. Obviously, set piece goals are their Achilles heel, as per usual, but especially in the cup. But Wien Wiesbaden can be threatening, I guess. But as far as first cup
not so
rounds,
far in the Dritte Liga.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was gonna say that. Having 2 games without scoring, it's Dortmund's second team is probably a bigger test at this point for Borussia Dortmund, especially if Dortmund's second team would play with a complete roster, because that would mean that Dortmund's first team would lack a center back. So, I'm really looking forward to this game because it signals that the season is finally upon us, and the other thing is I'm really excited to see Donyell Malen, and I think this is a really good occasion to see him. Usually, I think the first round cup match lends itself pretty well to new players, or for new players to showcase themselves. I think Jude Bellingham scored immediately against Duisburg, if I remember correctly, in the first round game last season. So that obviously did bode well. And as you said, in midfield, I'm looking forward to Mahmoud Dahoud to play well again. You said Witsel might be in there. Reus will definitely start in Haaland and Malen, I guess. I don't know if Hazard will play, but I can see it more that players who are maybe not 100% start the game and then come off whenever they must, then rather than being subbed on. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know Marco Rose's substitution antics quite yet, and I hope that's not going to be a point of contention for us as it was with late Lucien Favre, who obviously is not dead, but late as in the late stage of being a Dortmund manager and making very late substitutions, because that was often very annoying. I'm hoping for a lot of early subs if need be. So end of monologue and almost end of podcast. I feel like I really ran out of things to say quite early, Matthias. Is there anything you want to rave about?
Well, I mean, it is nice to see that Dortmund's lone player Renier is doing quite well at the Olympics. So I've heard. I don't actually watch the Olympics, so I don't really care that much. But it's just nice to see he's having something positive. It'll be interesting to watch in this match with Manuel Akanji being kind of the boss of the defense, because we remember before Mats Hummel's return, that was his job, and he did it really well, and he came off an absolutely excellent Euro competition this summer. So I have high hopes for Manuel Akanji this season. I'm also curious to see Kobe in goal in a competitive match. But like you said, against Wehen Wiesbaden, I don't foresee major issues. I think Marco Rose will understand the importance of getting a good start, especially given that, the pressure is going to be high this season again. I think we can watch an interesting match from the standpoint of just watching a few players. If Dortmund have undue issues with Wiesbaden, well, then we've got a lot to talk about next week, but I don't foresee that, to be honest.
You're right. I also have high hopes for Manuel Akanji this season, so I hope with the wear and tear that he can stay healthy, because, as you said, his Euro showing and obviously him playing for Dortmund in the previous season, he was absolutely fantastic. So I just really hope he can carry on there. One thing I think we should mention, obviously, the COVID infections for Brandt and Meunier are really not fun. I don't know how reliable the information is that Brandt wasn't vaccinated, and I'm not sure whether that was a personal choice or not, to be honest. But I've also heard that 90% of Dortmund squad and staff and everyone else is vaccinated, so I guess that's good. Should be 100 by now, I think, if somehow feasible. I don't know how vaccination is going on in Germany, but all my friends and family at least have been vaccinated, both fully, to be honest. So I would expect that Julian Brandt also would be vaccinated. It's kind of a blow, Matthias. I was making a joke in private to Christina about, I said it was going to be the breakout season, not outbreak season. Yet here we are. Obviously, he doesn't really have any terrible symptoms or whatnot, but how much of a damper does this put on Julian Brandt's sort of trying to tackle this season with way more steam, and obviously he has a chip on his shoulder and something to prove?
Well, it's certainly annoying and frustrating, to say the least. I also haven't heard of really symptoms or anything like that, so it may just be one of those seemingly typical breakthrough cases of COVID in a fully vaccinated person, where so many are supposedly or reportedly asymptomatic. Who knows? But still, you can't put him with other people, asymptomatic or not. So yeah, he was probably hoping this is the kind of match that he can kind of kickstart, reinvigorate his Dortmund career, or his career in general. It didn't happen. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Hopefully in a couple of weeks he'll be back and able to train with the team, and we move forward.
Yeah, that's what I hope too. I mean, The worst who had it, I think, was Emre Can, because I think he had a little bit, he had it worse than just mild symptoms. But yeah, who else? I think Rainier had it at some point, and Axel Witsel. Am I forgetting someone from this roster who also contracted COVID at some point?
Not off the top of my head, but none of them seem to have been in any grave danger. So other than that, I can't think of. I'm thinking right now, but I can't. No one pops to mind.
All right, so let's move on real quick. Lastly, if you will, obviously transfer window is still open. Dortmund have not made too many moves. Do you think that Dortmund still find a club to sell Nico Schulz to?
I think it'll come down to money. I think he can perform well for, let's say, mid and lower half Bundesliga club for sure, but it'll just come down to money. It'll come down to the club's asking price. Obviously, it's not going to be 25 million, because who in the hell would pay 25 million euros for Nico Schulz?
I know. Julian Nagelsmann is still laughing his butt off for that.
Yeah, no kidding. Maybe Julian Nagelsmann will take him, because they have some issues right now too. And then it'll come down to wages, of course, because he's probably not on a few pennies a week. So I think if the finances find an agreeable situation, they'll be able to move him on. Otherwise, I would say he probably sticks around for another season.
Yeah, I only bring this up because Leipziger Volkszeitung have, I guess, reliably written that as soon as Nico Schulz leaves Borussia Dortmund, that chances are Marcel Halstenberg will follow from Leipzig to Dortmund. So the question only is when this will happen. Obviously, I'm not the most psyched about this transfer, but at the same time, I think Halstenberg at least will be a viable option behind Rafael Guerreiro, unlike Nico Schulz. So, as I said, while Marcel Halstenberg, who obviously has a Dortmund past, will not, have me singing from the trees. But, yeah. Just wanted to say.
I would say a Halstenberg transfer kind of leaves me as excited as a Thomas Meunier transfer, just because it's like, yeah, I mean, he's good. He's above average. He's not great. He's not amazing. He's 29, I believe. So, resale value isn't going to be very high because he'd probably leave then in his early 30s. So it kind of fits in that category. What it would do though, is give Marco Rose a reliable alternative for Guerreiro. So Guerreiro gets a few breaks, and alternatively, he could then even shift Guerreiro into central midfield on occasion and have Halstenberg out wide, because Nico Schulz, it's just not the system isn't right for him. He's a wingback, a running wingback, kind of like I would think of Marius Wolf on the other side. He's not a fullback in that sense. I would personally rather see Marcel Schmelzer there, especially if you're not expecting much running or speed at this point. It's not like the man can't run. He can run a hell of a lot better than I can. So that's kind of where I think of this Halstenberg transfer. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see it, makes sense. But I'm not like, oh my God, this is the second coming at left back. But I think it would be a quality addition to the squad if you can move Nico Schulz, because otherwise you just have a ton of people sitting around. I mean, and maybe Dortmund have to look at loaning Nico Schulz out for a season. I mean, that and then looking at with a buyout clause or something like that, to just move him. And also for Nico Schulz, this isn't a great situation for him as a player and a person. So maybe they have to go that route.
Yeah, I mean, usually left backs are hard to find, so there must be a club somewhere needing the services of Nico Schulz, but so far not for the money that Dortmund are asking, I guess. Same, I guess, also goes for Roman Bürki, who's still hanging around somehow. So many potential transfers.
I think that's wages. I think that's just down to personal wages. I think Dortmund's not too big and fussy about the transfer fee they get for him because it's not like he was super expensive when he came from Freiburg. I think it's more down to personal terms than anything else.
Yeah, that was just what I was going to say. And the other player maybe on his way out, maybe from the three we've discussed thus far, the most likely on his way out is Thomas Delaney. Maybe a move to the Premier League is imminent. I don't know, to be fair, but especially with Rose opting for diamond midfield and maybe not playing with two defensive midfielders, it could be just the perfect timing for him to say, you know what, I'd rather try my luck somewhere else. I always wanted to play in the Premier League anyway, so now's the perfect time to do that. Dahoud, Bellingham, Witzel, for three players for one position, if you will, if Dortmund really strictly stick to that system for the majority of the season, then I think that's a good depth. Obviously, that could be jinxing it, but I feel like this transfer's on the cards, and I think you, Matthias, are a very late convert to the Thomas Delaney fan club, but it would kind of suck to lose a player and a character like him. But
late, I was like the cheerleader for him right when he came.
Sorry,
I still get a lot of hate for
mixing you up with Lars.
I don't know. You may be doing Lars some injustice there, but I was always big on Thomas Delaney.
Sorry, then that's probably how it was.
But, I still get people on Twitter trolling me about actually thinking he's a good player, which he is, and you're wrong. I'm sorry. But no, it would be a real shame to see him leave, not just for the quality of player he is on the pitch. That's right. He's a good player. But also his leadership and what he can do motivationally with the side. That's the bigger loss, because when I look at other guys there, Bellingham can be a bit of an emotional leader, but he's still a kid, so he still really has to prove himself. You have Emre Can, who can do that, but Emre Can is more erratic, in my opinion, than Thomas Delaney. Thomas Delaney is like a controlled menace, whereas Can is just a menace at times. And obviously we know Witzel is not a vocal leader at all. So that's the one area where I have a little bit of a concern with Delaney leaving, but I totally understand. And I hope if he does go, it is to the Premier League and nowhere else, unless he goes back to Denmark, of course. But the Premier League, I think, like a Crystal Palace type side, he would do really well in. Yeah.
That's all I have to add. Obviously, I think it would suck a little bit more for Dortmund to lose Thomas Delaney than vice versa. That being said, obviously, Dortmund are a Champions League team and Crystal Palace are clearly not. But it's a realistic transfer. Let's put it this way, which is why I wanted to bring it up again. Anyway, Matthias, I don't really have much else to say. So if you don't mind, I would just knock it on the head here, because I have a couple of other things I need to do today, including packing my bag for the vacation. So
yeah, And we don't want to stop you from going on vacation, Stefan.
No, that's very nice. So if nothing else comes up, Matthias, please tell our listeners where to find you on the internet and poke fun at you. Jesus Christ. Time to end this. Poke fun at you on Twitter.
It's time for a vacation. But first, we do have to say the scoreline prediction.
Crap.
We can't forget that.
All right, 3-0.
I'm going to go 4-0 for Borussia Dortmund. You can find me on Twitter at Matthias Suk, but I am not very active on Twitter right now just because, it's Twitter. But you can still follow me there if you want to.
Yeah, good luck. You can follow me at Stefan Butzko. I don't know how much I will tweet during my vacation. It's just 4 days, so I'll be back to normal service, I guess, come Wednesday or Thursday by the latest. And yeah, anywho, you can follow all of us at Yellowwallpod on Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to subscribe to the show, do that on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, etc. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you want to contribute financially do that on patreon.com/theyellowwall. And that's it from us for this week. Goodbye.